Hi, Captain John here, and we are in Oahu. We're at the dock. We'd rather be fishing, but we're going to shoot a video today because it's just too rough outside to go fishing. Seas are big, the wind's blowing like 17 knots. So I thought I'd take this opportunity to answer some questions. I get a lot of them. How do I set up my electronics for fishing and how I run them on my boat? So I just thought I'd take a minute and show you what I have and how I run them. And, some of the information you can use, whether you have a single unit or multi-units. We'll just take it from there. So, Lowrance HDS Pro. This one's set up on Sonar, and then right next to it, I have another HDS Pro, and this one is set up for GPS mapping and stuff. Now, of course, they both will do the same thing, and you can set them up, everything on one unit. But that's kind of how I run mine. And then up above, I actually have another one. There's Simrad, and that one I run on dual radar up there. So I'm very lucky, yes, to have a few units. But anyway, let's get into this. I'll show you what we have here. So on this Pro that I'm setting up, you can see that over here, I have it on fresh water because that's the setting for depth setting from 0 to 400 feet. And when I'm fishing salmon, that's pretty much the water I'm going to be in. So it kind of optimizes the unit for that. It's in auto range, and I typically run it on high chirp. Of course, we're in 6 feet of water right now because we're running on low tide, so we're not going to get a lot of return. Sensitivity, I run it up a little bit, just to make sure I see all the fish that are there. And down here, we have the source. Right now, it's on a TM 275 high wide. Okay, so that's the main transducer. Now, I do have a 3-in-1 I can select multiple ones, so I can come up here on the S5100 and I can go to my 3-in-1 separately, or I can go to the high and wide low. So either one of those I can select on my main transducer, or I can come back up here and just put this one on. Typically what I do is I run my 3-in-1 if I'm in 100 feet of water or less, particularly if I'm fishing the shore or up on the beach. That's how I do it. And then on this one, as soon as I get over 100 feet of water, I'll kick it over to that one. So that's how I run that. Over here on this side, I have what we call overlay data. So you can see up here is our depth. I make it a little bit bigger. Water temperature, that's another important one to me. My battery voltage. Down here I have my fuel. Right now it's at 98.9, so it's full tank, 138 gallons here. So boat's got like a 140 gallon tank. Down here, time and date. Always like to know that. And then down here I have my engine information, so it'll tell me the burn rate on both motors, and over here is the temperature on both motors. So that's the data I put in there. So if I was to start my Mercuries right now, you can see that it's going to come up and it's going to show you what your burn rate would be, down below there. So once it settles out and gets going. So let me turn those back off. Okay, so that's how that one's set up. That's my main screen that I run all the time. Then also over here, I have outboard information, so I can go to my autopilot, put my autopilot in up here, standby, heading, hold, all that information. I'll close that one. I can go to audio. I can bring up Sirius. I'll show you that one on the other unit. I have vessel control over here, so I can actually run the motors off of this and adjust the speed just at right. And then down here, I have my Mercury information, so on my motor. So right now, I can see the voltage, how many gallons. I can come up to here and it gives me coolant temp, coolant pressure, tanks, trip log, maintenance. So I can look at maintenance life, obviously just beginning of the season, so I'm not too worried about it right at the moment. But all that information comes off of there, so it gives you a pretty good, without having to look anywhere else. Yeah, do I have a vessel view? Yes, I do have one. It's right over here, and I can bring that up. So either way. And then of course I have a handheld, mounted Simrad interface there for autopilot right here too, so I can control it off of there. Okay, then over on this side, we have our GPS. It has the same features over on the side over here. Over here, you can see I have different data on here. So one of the most important ones, I always want to make sure I always set up anybody. So I want the longitude and latitude up here, because if you have an issue, this is the first thing you want to look at. You can go in here and do overlay data. I can come up here, I can put weather in. Let's just take a look at that and see what's going on. Let me zoom out a little bit. You can see the weather modules came up, and it'll start loading up weather data here in a second. I'm going to zoom out of Oahu a little bit, and it takes a couple minutes for it to update. I can go here to options under weather. I can come in here and get icons, lightning, surface, storm tracks, all that kind of information. And then under view, you can get participation, wave height, color, wind barbs, you know, whatever I'm interested in looking at is there. So there's a lot of info that comes up on that. So let's see here. If we get out here, usually takes weather a few minutes to fire up. And once that starts receiving, I'll have all that data. So that's one thing that will log on top of there. And that's kind of how I do that. Now, if I want to add data or changes, how do I do this? That's real easy. I just come up here and I hit the power key. Boom. I can come up here, I just go down here where it says edit overlay data. And I can either move something around by once it highlights the block, it allows me to move it anywhere I want it on the screen. And then as far as adding, I just hit add. Up here, anything that you're capable of displaying with your motors or your information is going to show up on here. And you can just select your run. So if I go up here like to GPS, there's course over ground, position, GPS status, you know, whatever you want to display on your screen, you can select from all of these. There's sonar information, routing information, rudder, battery, fuel tank, you know, autopilot, all that kind of stuff. So whatever most important information is to you, you can just select off of there and put it on your screen. So once you do that, you just hit save. You can also configure it. So if I wanted to put a bezel on here, I can come down here and hit bezel, and that will turn to a dark, there it goes. And that one I usually leave off, and then I can change the size. So if I got that one highlighted, I come over here to plus sign, I can make it bigger or smaller, whatever I want as far as go. And I just hit save, and boom, there it is. Okay. All right, so you can see the weather's loaded up the wind barbs now. You can see it's fairly windy out here. You can look at over here, see what it is, but it's blowing pretty good out there. So as you get inside, it starts dying down towards the shore a little bit, but out here it's blowing pretty good. So, and other things you can do, let's see, we have other overlay data options here. So we can overlay, for instance, structure scan. If we're driving, our structure scan would overlay. Let me clear the cursor here, come back, zoom back in again a little bit. Our structure scan would overlay on top of this here. We'd have to really be moving to be able to get any data. But structure scan, of course, is this right here, the side scan. So you could actually overlay that. I don't even have it turned on. That reads, and we see what's underneath the boat, starts showing up on there. And actually, we can come up here on our GPS and overlay that data right on here. So as we go by it, it'll actually display on here. One day I get out on the water, maybe we'll play with that, but you know how it is, I'm usually fishing. All right, the other thing, we can do fish mapping. That's another feature that's kind of cool, particularly for tuna fishermen, and get offshore a little bit. Let's get out here. We can set this up, so we're looking at, there's Astoria Canyon right here. If I turn on the fish mapping, go to fish mapping options, view, let's do weed lines, let's do plankton fronts, plankton contours, and then fish. We'll just put in tuna. And what it does, well, see, I already made some spots out there where recommended tuna fishing might be. So you can get that information. You can look at your weed lines and your plankton lines coming in here. So if you could combine that into an area you want to fish and look at that, that's some good information to have. It's pretty much offshore. It's not going to work too close to shore, but you can see according to whatever you're trying to find on there. So there's a lot of information that these things will do. We can come back. We can do, let's see what other options we got here. We have radar overlay. Let me turn on the radar. So if we come up here, I have it set up on here for dual radar. So I'm going to hit transmit on this Simrad. Then I'll turn on the other one. Okay, so now they're both running. Got them in dual mode. So one is at 48 miles, one's at 8 miles. So, and then I come down to here. And if I clear the cursor here and go back into where we were, down here in Oahu Harbor, you can see that it's starting to overlay the radar on top of that. So that's another option you have. There's also a heat map where it just creates a trail, a temperature trail behind the boat. That's kind of nice if you're out trolling and you're looking for cold water, you happen to troll over it, you can look back and see where your temperature variant is for warmer or colder. And that's pretty much it for this video, but that's kind of how I run mine, set it up. Again, you know, you can set yours up anyway. If you only have one unit, you can pretty much do the same thing that I'm doing here. All you're going to do is just come over here and set up your screen on your GPS on one side and your sonar on the other side. You notice I still have a lot of the same information on there. So, and you can do that on any of them, and they all share when they're networked together on NEMA and on NEMA 2000, excuse me, and on Ethernet. So, okay, if you got any questions, you know, feel free to shoot me an email and or just respond on the video, and I'll be happy to answer them for you. Take care, and we'll see you out there fishing.